Hi everybody, I'm Paul. Welcome to my Curious Corner of Controversy. It's been a while, my friends. I've had a lot going on. I moved, got a new job, got attacked by a little 6-pound adorable furball, a cat named Lionel who put me in the hospital. Turns out cat scratch fever is a real thing, but they actually call it cat scratch disease. And when the bacteria gets into the tendons of your phalanges, these things, if antibiotics don't work, they've got to go in and cut it out. So I was hospitalized for a while, almost needed surgery. Luckily it didn't happen, so my fingers are alive and flicking. So video games are back in action. I can work again and, pick my nose, all the fun stuff. Anyways, back to the Curious Corner of Controversy and not my BS drama that befalls behind the screen. All right, we're going to just do a quick run through of the history of Oddworld and Abes Oddysee. Abes Oddysee came out in '97. I was in like 5th grade, maybe 6th. I played it on PlayStation, if I remember correctly, and it was just a fun game that kind of broke some rules of a lot of games out at the time and kind of made fart jokes. Well, I mean, fart jokes are always funny, but it just kind of took them to a new level with fart abilities, and we'll get to that. So, Abe is a Modakan, which is a subservient species who are enslaved by these greedy, no-armed, cigar-smoking, suit-wearing businessmen creatures called the Gluckins. The Gluckins, again, they're just greedy, money-hungry jerks, to put it nicely. And well, they plan on turning the Modakans into a delicious money-making morsel called Modakan Pops. Abe hears this and is of course frightened for himself and all of his kind, so he comes up with a plan to basically escape and try and save as many of his kind as he can while escaping. So throughout the game, you play Abe, who is a yellow-eyed, green-skinned Modakan. He's kind of goofy looking, their hands are 4-fingered, but their pinkies are extra small. And he also has 2 big stitches on his mouth, so talking is kind of funny. Throughout the game, you have to help your enslaved friends escape, but also use them in weird puzzles where it's got a weight plate sensor that someone's got to stand on, or a pulley to pull that opens up a door so you can get through, something along the lines of that. A lot of the times they're really funny, and sometimes if you mess up, they can be brutally ripped apart and dismembered by either the security drones, the random monsters throughout the game, or the industrial equipment that takes place throughout most of the game. Fun game. It's a 2D platform. It goes kind of screen by screen. I don't know, like one of the things that just kind of stood out to me is the fact that you can possess creatures with your farts. You heard me right. You can literally summon a fart and move it around remote control style and possess enemies and then make them either shoot each other or open up doors or let your friends go or all kinds of other fun, interesting things. A lot of the game is about outsmarting the bad guys so they can either kill themselves, get hurt, fall off of cliffs or bridges and things like that. It's very little actual hand-to-hand or fighting combat as opposed to tricking and maneuvering around. One thing that was really fun about the game, or not fun I guess, is the backgrounds. Just as 2D as it was, there was a lot of depth to the artwork, and it was this weird, beautifully creepy dystopian industrial world where a lot of muted colors and a lot of, the machinery was always weird looking, so there's a lot of moving parts going on. But throughout the game, you just play, like I said, you play Abe, who just goes on an awesome little adventure helping his friends out. There's a lot of comedic elements to it, as dark and as nasty as the game can be, which again, I don't know, at the time I remember playing like Crash Bandicoot, which was a fun game, but at the end of it, it was, I don't know, very cut and paste. It was a different angle of Sonic. It was, I don't know, all the games at the time just kind of blurred together, while Oddworld just was different to me at least. it definitely had a darker tone to the artwork and a very gritty but yet light-hearted feel to it. And the whole series is just very solid. The weakest releases were the handheld ports. They just didn't do well. The backgrounds are very limited. The music was kind of limited. The only one that succeeded as far as ports go was the version that was ported from Munchs Odyssey, which was the 2001 release on Xbox after the company signed an exclusive deal with Xbox, but they upgraded and got to do a 3D game and introduced Munch, who is a wheelchair-bound creature. I don't know if he's a Modakan. He kind of looks like him, but kind of not, and has this weird leg with a flipper foot rather than legs. I don't know. It's really weird, but again, the game, it definitely kept the feel of the original games, but the 3D atmosphere added to the world. It made it more open worldy. Of course, Abe was in it. You kind of go back and forth throughout the two. I think the best out of the original 4 games would be the second one, which is Abe's Exodus, which is a continuation of Abe's story where he goes on to fight a new evil company called Soulstorm, Reverie, who, if I remember correctly, kills and sucks the souls out of creatures to put it in their tasty beverage that they sell and make money off of. So that's kind of their whole franchise, or not franchise, their whole theme is that there's these money-hungry, rich, I don't know, there's no nice way to say asshole. So those, but they're always just, crushing the little guy literally and then grinding the juice out of them and making either drinks or food, which isn't far off from our world. So, Soylent Green will happen soon enough, and, it'll be fun. Everybody will be fine, at least the ones you don't know about. So with that series, they tried another series, or not another series, they added another character and story that was Stranger's Wrath, which was a new addition that takes place in the odd world, but in a more Western dystopian style game where it's a mix of a first-person shooter and a third-person open world kind of environment. One of the funnest things about that one is you actually use living creatures as your weapons. So you pick up little fur balls with teeth and load them in a crossbow and fire them at enemies and watch them eat their faces and stuff like that, which was fun. It was definitely a fun game. It kind of turned a lot of people's opinions on first-person shooters because they added the whole element where you go from first person to third person, which wasn't often done, and actually kind of reminds me of how Fallout does a lot of their stuff. Just not in a dark and gritty manner that Fallout does. A few years went by, and the company Oddworld Inhabitants actually stopped making video games and tried to make an animated feature film with another company. It never really got off the ground and kind of petered out. Eventually they were approached by a company called Just Add Water, and they released a not quite remastered, but a collection set of the first 4 games: Oddworld, Abes Oddysee, Abes Exodus, Munchs Odyssey, and Stranger's Wrath. And in those they also added the achievement support. And then a year later, did you get that swallow microphone? I want you to hear all the good throat noises.
Several bad puns later.
Anyways, a year later, they released the HD remaster of Stranger's Wrath, which actually looks really good and actually aged well considering it's almost a 13 or 14-year-old game at this point. They added more detailed character models. They added a wider range of dialogue. Everything is just a little bit, prettier, brighter. like I said in the beginning, all of their environmental design has always been epic. It's this weird mix of kind of space world mixed with, I don't know, the slums of New York mixed with a D&D campaign. They're really weird. It's just kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different game styles and moods, I guess. The whole series has always had just that lighthearted feel while also there being like a lot of disgusting things going on behind the background that you don't really see, which is kind of the point of the whole game, is that as it's not good, but you know, the slaves are somewhat happy in their slave life until they realize that they're going to be ground up and made into food and money. So, you know, it's what the rich do. Just grind all the little people up and don't care. In games, not in real life, like, you know, what happens every day on the news or anything like that, and it just gets ignored. But, you know, hey, life is life. But games help us escape so we don't cry while we think about the real world. All right, so Oddworld has had a lot going on. In the last few years, they released, in 2014 or 15, they released a remastered from the ground up rebuild of Oddworld Abes Oddysee, and I really need to get it, and I don't know how I did not know about it for so long. From what I've read and seen, it looks like an amazing redo of the original game. From everything I've seen, it keeps the original heart. It just adds a little bit of beauty and elegance to the what was already a great foundation. They've also announced that they have a new game coming out next year, 2020, called Soulstorm, which from what I've seen looks amazing. It looks like they've kind of taken the best elements of all of their games and kind of incorporated it into this new story that's kind of, it looks like it's continuing Abe's story but adding a bigger risk factor to it. Like it's a grander scale, it seems. In this one, they're also introducing some RPG elements, and also it seems like they're adding more of an action side to it, which, as long as it still has that original feel, which it looks like it does, I'm excited for. They're adding looting and crafting, and it seems like when you go around with your little slave buddies, the group's larger, and it seems like it's more dependent on how, kind of like an old D&D campaign, how you build your party to support you, basically. I could be completely wrong. There's very little released about the plot of the game or even a release date or what system it's going to be on. They're still kind of vague on everything. I read on one site they don't have anything set in stone. I read on another site that there's been a delay. It's all over the place. But from what I've seen, everything looks amazing, and I can't wait for the release of Soulstorm. I don't know. It was just an amazing series that, like I said, I started playing in 5th or 6th grade. I think I played all of the main console ones, except the remakes, of course. But the handhelds, I was never a big handheld player. But I don't know. They're fun games. Like, you can possess people, not people, you can possess creatures with your farts. You can blow creatures up with your farts. You can make one of your slave buddies, if you have a dark sense of humor, walk into a giant fan and watch them get obliterated. Or you can help them be free and live and frolic and have a good life, only to be caught by another corporation that apparently this entire odd world is made out of corporations that just grinds up their inhabitants. But, you know, it's maybe an allegory for the real world, maybe not, but that's for you to decide, or not, you know. It is what it is, man. I don't know. If you haven't played the game series, you're definitely missing out. If you have, you know what I'm talking about, and you either love it or hate it. If you hate it, you probably hate me, and that's fine. I hate a lot of people too. So, it works. I don't know. This has been my Curious Corner of Controversy. We'll be back shortly with more stories and more entertainment. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave it in the comments, or feel free to get a hold of us at one of our many web availabilities. Anything with Devious I in the name is probably belonging to us, or hopefully one day we'll take over the world and own it all. But, you know, that's... Oh, we weren't supposed to tell them that. I'm sorry. All right, we gotta go, guys. Bye.